Hello, fellow Demeo players. I'm Chad Kern, or Duke Blitzsign. This video is a monster manual. I'll be going through all of the monsters, specifically monsters that are native to the Reign of Madness adventure. But also other monsters from the other adventures can rift in to the board in this adventure. So I'll be mentioning some of those too. Let's start off with the Elvin Hound. These are in no particular order, but this is a monster you'll see often, and it has a hit. A run up to you, he'll hit you, and then run away, and he'll hide in the shadows kind of behavior, which can be annoying because you might take damage from this thing, and you might be off looking at another character, and then when you go back to your character, like you're damaged, and you're like, how did I get damaged? And you don't see this monster; it's hiding in the shadows. So it's a sneaky monster. Uh, But the best way to deal with this monster is to use a bone on it, and that will make it friendly. And when this monster is under your control, it will do the same thing it's done to you, to other monsters. And other monsters, when they're being attacked by this friendly unit of yours, will ignore it. Um, and the only real way these things will die when they're friendly to you is they'll run through poison, or if you blow something up and they're around. So you just gotta watch that. But if you don't have a bone, and the best way to kill these things is to poison them, because in one turn they will move to attack, and then they'll attack, and then they will move again, and that's 3 damage a turn from poison that they'll take. So that's another way you can deal with them. Okay, next is a Goblin Ranger. It's a small, weak monster with 1 damage attack and 2 movement. Um, they can usually add up if there's a lot of monsters. But the best way to deal with this is to have a bard in your party, and when he casts a courage shanty on each of the other party members, they'll be each damage they take from a source is reduced by 1, so making this monster unable to hurt them. So the best answer to these guys is the courage shanty from the bard. Okay, next, this menu is also going to include points of interest. So in I believe the second level, there's a point of interest, and her name is Anna Becker. And when you interact with her, she gives you 4 healing potions. Another point of interest, definitely on the second floor, is a bookcase. This is it, but it looks like a bookcase. It's got books, but it's when you interact with it, you get 4 potions. And when I interacted with it last, these are the kind of potions. They're high-end potions you get. You might not get these exact same potions or in that order. It's kind of like it's like a deck of cards. It's random, but they're high-end potions. Something of the nature. Okay, another point of interest is a mercenary named Arly Owl. Uh, and you hire him. He costs 200 gold coins. Uh, he he's got some abilities. He can heal himself. He can make his arrows poisoned. His crossbow, he fires 3 attacks for 1 damage each. So if you actually got him up to level 3 courage, you can actually panic 3 monsters. But that's interesting. Whoever pays the money to hire him, he follows them around. I think he moves about 4 or 5 squares. Um, and I suspect he gets cards when the heroes level up, because I've seen him use more than 1 potion before. Okay. Next, we have a very important point of interest character who gives you the most powerful card in the game, and that card is called Ralma's Reckoning. The character's name is Thulord Surmahl, but he refers to himself as an old beggar. Uh, so he will you can trade him cards and get more powerful cards. So and there's 7 cards he'll trade you. Uh, if you trade to him a water, but he will only trade with you 4 times. So let's see what he trades you. If you give him a water flask, he gives you a potion of speed. If you give him a rejuvenation card, those usually you can Those usually sell. You can buy them off Klepto's Bazaar. They go about 500 gold coins. If you give him a rejuvenation, he gives you Realmless Reckoning. If you give him a potion of strength, he gives you a unique card called Eleg's Fighting Spirit, which gives it's a potion which is drunk, gives the character they take one less damage from all attacks taken for the rest of the adventure. He's the only guy you can get this card from. Same with the Realmless Reckoning. If you give him a repeating ballista, he gives you a reveal path. If you give him a teleportation, he gives you a jeweled scarab. If you give him an oil lamp, he gives you a luck potion. Those I don't see too many of those luck potions. And if you give him a bone, he gives you detect enemies. Okay. Next, another point of interest we have is a character named Jahn Becker, who is the governor of End. And when you interact with him, he gives you 175 gold coins. That's him there. As we go along, I don't think rats are native to the land in Reign of Madness. I think they come through portals. They're just a hit and run monster. Very no big deal. Anyone who's played the first adventure is very familiar with the rats. Okay, this is an elvish. There's a theme with this, the Reign of Madness. There's a lot of elves, so this is an Elven Cultist. When they are spawned by Elvish priests, and there's usually like three or four of them, and so they can overwhelm you and swarm you, and so a lot of them attacking you, dealing one damage. It can add up, you know. So there's a couple ways you can deal with them. Is when they see something die, they panic. So if you can't kill them all and you want to get them out of your way, just kill something, and they'll most likely panic and run away and leave you alone until the panic effect wears off. Or again, you use have a bard in your party with the Shanty Courage, and to make their one attack reduced to 0. The next we have is the Elven Mystic. This guy has a 0 attack, uh, fairly moderate hit points. He just moves, teleports allies close to you. He can't teleport them too far, maybe a room or two away. But I noticed that any monster that he teleports that is chained by a Leviathan will snap the chain. So putting these guys and a group of monsters in a Leviathan, it's kind of he kind of counteracts it. So watch that. Okay, next is the Elven Priest. This I spoke to you about the Elven Cultist before, and this is the character that summons them. See, he's got an ability called Summon Cultist. So you want to deal with this guy, because if you just kill the cultist and he's around, he's just going to summon more. So deal with him first. His ability, Draining Kiss, it does 2 damage to you and restores 2 life to him. Here we have a Goblin Fighter. He's a small monster, just attack 2, movement 2. He's slow, and generally when something is killed around him, he panic. There's a chance he'll panic. So here's a Gorgon. It's a monster that will come through a rift. This is a monster native to the Reign of Madness. It's called a Goblin Mad Un. Yeah, he's quite got a high attack. He's got this charge ability you gotta watch out for. He can rush across the screen, do a lot of damage to characters, like 6 damage. So when you see him charging, take him out or try and get out of the way of his charge. Next, we have the Reptilian Mage. This is another character that comes to the Rifts. If you're familiar with the previous adventure, then you'll know what Berserk does. But this monster can cast Berserk on you, And when you're Berserk, on your first action, you have control of your character. Then for your second action, the computer controls your character for the enemies. So, but when you're Berserk, it's easy to get rid of the Berserk status because all you have to do is make the character wet or use any kind of healing, and that will remove the status. So you can like toss a water flask or any kind of water lamp and run through the water, or use the water flask on yourself. That will remove the Berserk status. Next we have is a Root Creeper. This is another annoying hit and run character. But there's a couple of ways you can deal with this thing. There's a card called Wooden Bone. If you use a Wooden Bone on a Root Creeper, you can make this creature become friendly to you. Or if you have a Wooden Bone and you throw it in water, it becomes a friendly Root Creeper. And it seems like these things will absorb the first attack against it. That may be from behind. I'm not sure how that works. I think the Ronth Scorpion has a sort of similar as absorb an attack. Sometimes it doesn't absorb attack, but I know for when attack from behind, it absorbs an attack. Okay, next, we have the rifts. These are you'll see these all the time in the first two levels. In the first two levels, there's an Elvish Summoner, and he scatters these rifts around. Almost every other turn, he might scatter 5 of these things. It seems that the farther away he is, the more spread out these will appear on the map, which is better because when they are close together, they start combining and growing. So at first they start out small. There's 3 sizes: small, medium, and large, and they spawn monsters every other turn. And the monsters they spawn are relative to the size of the portal. The largest portal can spawn monsters, with 15, 20 hit points, and that are immune to panic. And you have to take the large ones down as fast as you can because you will get overrun. Also, with these portals, when they combine and grow, they will when they upgrade, they will upgrade to the size of the largest portal or rift on the map. So you have to take the bigger ones down first. Let's see, did I miss anything? They have a weakness. They can be one hit with vortex dust or any kind of vortex explosions, like from the purple lamps. Uh, okay, so these things are made by an Elven Summoner. And here's the Elven Summoner here. I got 2 pictures of this. Here's his stats, and here he is without his reflect barrier. Okay, so the Elven Summoner, he's a large dude. He's the boss for the first 2 floors. He's got 48 hit points. His attack and movement aren't impressive. But what makes him a pain, and what can kill many players, is his summon rift abilities. And what makes him a pain is his teleportation. And he has a ability called Telekinetic Push, so which hits about everything within 1 or 2 squares that is close to him for maybe 4 or 5 damage. But if there's like heroes close to him hammering on him, and there's monsters, he probably won't use Telekinetic Push, but he'll just teleport, and he can teleport to anywhere on the map. And Deflect Barrier makes him immune to ranged and magic attacks. So this is the picture of him with his Reflect Barrier up. When you kill him, you get a magic potion. Okay. You see these are quite common elementals. The Elvish Skirmisher is a unique monster to the Reign of Madness adventure. He's another hit and run character. He's got a spear thrust, lots of body points. Watch out for them. When you kill all the monsters, there's a group of monsters that will spawn, and the Elvish Spearmen, and the Hound, and a couple, like maybe 4 cultists will spawn. Okay, next we have, this is a Royal Servant. You find it in the 3rd and final level. I'll talk more about them later, but it has 2 sizes. This is the size of a Royal Servant when it's small. When it takes about half damage, it becomes small. When it's small, it'll start healing itself, but I'll talk more about that later. Okay, so when you first encounter the Royal Servant, they are gigantic, and this is how big they are. And they have 2 behaviors that they use at first. Well, the first behavior is one is called Smash, and here it is hammering the ground. It'll do like 4 attacks, smashing, doing an area effect in the room where it's hovering over. So you'll have a turn to get out of that room when you see it. And then another of its abilities is Rush, and it looks like this. It points in the direction of which it's going to rush, and it rushes across a row or a column, whichever way it's pointing. So you have a turn if you're in any of these rooms to get out, to get somewhere other than this row where it's going to smash. It might do 5 damage to everything in this row of rooms. They have Royal Servants have 48 hit points. So we discussed Rush and Smash. Royal Heal. When the Mad Elvin King is on the board and he's quite damaged, one hand will heal him. Usually one hand. It'll be a sort of like a palm up, I think. That means it's gonna heal the open palm up. It's gonna heal the Mad Elvin King. If they're small, that means they're taking like half damage, and there might be like 24 out of 48 health. They will all just start healing themselves. Royal Enforcement. Now that comes later on. Once there's 4 hands on the once there's 4 Royal Servants on the board, they start using the Royal Reinforcement, which is there are all these monsters on platforms around the game board, and the Royal Servant will just go and pick one, take it off the platform, and put it down on the board. Okay, there are some other monsters. Cave Troll. This comes through a large rift. There's a Silent Sentinel. This thing is very slow moving, but has a very high attack. So the best if you can't take it out and do 18 damage, just you can outrun it and keep your distance. Attack it from a distance if you need to kill it. See, there it is. It's spawned next to a large rift. And then you can see the height of the barbarian. He's about this tall compared to it. So in a 3 to 4 player game, large rifts have 15 hit points. Medium rifts have 7 hit points. And small rifts have 3 hit points. Okay, Silent Sentinel. Okay, here's the Elvin King, the final boss of the 3rd level, and the adventure. His behaviors, here are his stats. He's got an ability called Rift Beam. It's an area effect that shoots straight out of his chest, and it's an area effect that hits everything in a line. So you never want to attack him from the front. Always from the side or behind or an angle, never from the front. The King's Bash does about 6 damage, but it's got a really nasty knockback. It can knock you into another room, and he attacks before the Royal Servants do, so he can knock you into another room, and then you can be smashed or rushed by the Royal Servants, and you can take even more damage, and your character is going to go down unless they're invulnerable. Okay, so I have the list of what he does on each turn. On the first turn, he sits on his throne and he summons 2 Royal Servants, and he fills all the gaps in the walls with rubble. So what you want to do is stand in the gaps in the hallways, so that the gap where you're standing doesn't fill with rubble, and you don't get trapped in a room. But the rubble has 4 hit points. Anyone with a strength potion who can do 4 damage can attack a rubble, destroy it, and then move out of the room. On the second turn, he sits on the throne, and the Royal Servants are. You just gotta deal with the Royal Servants. On the third turn, he also sits on the throne. On the fourth turn, he moves to the battlefield. Then on the fifth and sixth turns, he fights, and he might use anything between a Grand Rupture, a King's Bash, or a Rift Beam. Grand Rupture is like a close range area effect that he will do on his turn, and it also has some spikes, but it shows you where not to stand. Uh, uh, so after he moves to the battlefield, for 1 or 2 turns he'll stay. I think it might depend on how much damage he's taken or not before he returns to the throne for a turn or two. But in the last video I fought him, he stayed on the board fighting for 3 turns. And then he returns to the throne, and then he summons 2 more Royal Servants. So now you got 4 Royal Servants on the board. And this is when the Royal Servants start doing the Royal Reinforcement, and they start taking monsters off the platforms and adding them to the board. So then he will just keep coming to the battlefield for a couple turns and leaving the battlefield. I believe when he returns to his throne on the first time, he fills the gaps in the walls with rubble. Okay, another monster we have is the Marauder. I don't have his stats here. It's just a slow-moving, high-damage monster. Just keep away if you don't have to kill him. We have a Goblin Chieftain here. Nothing much about this guy. Pretty standard. When you're weak, yeah, he can make you weak. When you're weak, you might be only doing 1 damage. Okay, we have the Ronth Scorpion. This monster seems whenever you attack it, it becomes taunted, and it might absorb the first hit when you attack it from behind, or it just might absorb the first hit wherever you're hitting it from. And there is a monster called the Unseen. This thing's it's just summons cultists. It's nothing, not much, not much of a threat. But there's another monster that looks like it, which is interesting, which I'll talk about. The Elvin Spearmen. This monster can do a lot of damage to a character because of its spear thrust, and it's also another monster that does a hit and run up to you, hit you, run away, and hide in the shadows. But one thing that's interesting about this monster is it throws vortex dust at you. If you've got a rift that you can't take down because you've run out of vortex dust, or you're not doing enough damage to it, you could, with an Elvish Spearman on the board, you could stand next to a rift, attack the rift, and it will, when it throws vortex dust at you, it'll destroy the rift. So that's one way you can use this monster's abilities against in your favor. Rat's Nest. These are just another. I don't need to mention these, do I? But here's your stats. They got a lot of hit points. They spawn rats. Uh, they don't move around. Okay, Brookmare. This is a monster that comes through large rifts, and this monster's really surprised me because I thought I got away from it, and then it appeared, and I thought, what? But it's got this ability called Puddle Teleport, so it can teleport to wherever there's water. So, and its mythical wave ability is pretty devastating. It does a row attack, and it pushes everything and does massive damage to anything. Great. Uh, Next, we have Reptilian Archer. Uh, another monster that comes through rifts. Uh, Another monster we have is the Unspoken. Now, this monster doesn't seem like much. It's got 0 attack, 2 movement. It's slow, but it's got this one ability called Banish. And if it hits you with this, it can teleport to the other side of the map, which you don't want. So, but you'll see it building up before it can banish you. So when it's building up, you take it down. Uh, it's only got 2 hit points. Just take it down. Don't let this thing build up and then banish you. And that's it for my monster manual. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching it.